Hi everyone. This is take 2.
Woo!
So if you happen to see the first one,
Ignore it.
you're probably curious what we were saying. There was no volume. So
But I'm not going to blame it on Rhett.
that's right.
And he's not going to blame it on me, so no one's going to know whose fault it was. You decide.
So this is a question we get a lot. We think it was timely because next week everyone is heading towards warmer weather.
We hope.
So, yeah. Get on a plane, they get off, they get their bags, they head right to the rental car company, and the first call they make is to us. They want to know whether or not they need to buy the insurance from the rental car company. So we get this all the time, and I'm just going to make it as easy as possible. It depends. All right?
It does. It depends.
So we're going to kind of run through here why it depends, and then I'll give you my professional opinion. So if you called the office and asked me, and then I would tell you what I'll do personally, and we can see if those match up or not. So you guys can be the judge. So Mary, why don't you get in and tell why it depends, or give them the categories for why.
Okay, so why does it depend? It depends on your current auto policy, what coverages you have on your current auto policy. Depends on what type of vehicle that you're going to rent, and how long you're going to rent it for, and who's going to be driving the vehicle.
Right. So the type of coverage is important because if you just have a liability only policy, that's the only coverage you're getting to provide you protection if you're in an accident in a rental car. So, but if you have comprehensive and collision coverage, that coverage is going to extend to the rental car as well. So now, if you just have liability only, are you out of luck? Do you have to buy the rental car insurance? And the answer is no. It depends. Get ahead of myself there. So, but the answer is no. So check with your credit card company. So when I was preparing for this, I called both my credit card companies. I called Discover. I have a Discover More card. This was something that they used to offer as a benefit, but they no longer do. There's a Discover It, a Discover Miles, and I think there's a couple other levels of Discover. So you might want to check to see if you have Discover, which one you have, if they still provide coverage for it or not. The other one was my business Visa card that I use, and that does provide coverage. What's nice about that card is that if I had comp and collision on my personal auto policy, if I had a claim, it'd be subject to my deductibles, which would be $500. Mm-hmm. They will reimburse you. They will basically pay up to your deductible amount for coverage. So essentially, as long as you put that rental car on the right card, you could have almost zero out-of-pocket costs for you, which is nice. So before you if you have multiple cards, check and see which one works best for you, and then rent the car, based on that.
But you have to use that card. That's the key. That is important. You have to use that card, because if you may have it on your credit card and you don't use that card to rent a car, you're out of luck.
That's right. So the next is the type of vehicle. So you can elaborate on that. For
type of vehicle. So it depends on the type of vehicle that you're going to rent. So first of all, if you're going to rent like a U-Haul or a rental truck like that, as long as it has 6 wheels, which I think most of the U-Haul rental trucks do, you would definitely have coverage on that. If you're going to rent, like my son Zach wanted to rent when he was in Las Vegas, a Maserati, no, you're not going to have any coverage on a Maserati because
How old Zach?
At the time, he was 25.
25.
Yeah.
25-year-old in Las Vegas with a Maserati.
No, it was his bachelor party. That's why. But there's more than one reason why he never did that, but we won't get into that either. So again, it's a luxury sports car. It's not going to be covered underneath your personal policy. So you definitely would have to purchase their insurance as well. If it's going to be used for business usage, if you're going to go and deliver flowers on Valentine's Day in a van, that's for business use. That vehicle would not be covered. Remember, the terms are business and personal. So if it's a personal policy, you can't use it. You're not going to be covered for business use on that vehicle.
Now, I found out on my business Visa card that if I'm using it for business use, the rental car, it would actually provide primary coverage. My credit card would.
Oh.
So, which is kind of nice, since my personal auto policy is going to exclude that coverage.
Nice. That's good to know too. And the last thing is, if you're gonna rent a truck or an SUV or something and go behind or go off-roading, then you're not covered either. You'll not be covered on your personal policy for that as well. So that's the type of vehicles.
That's right. So it also depends on how long are you going to be renting the vehicle for. So a day, a week, a month, longer. If you go typically over 30 days is when you want to start considering buying the rental car company insurance, because your personal auto policy for most of them will expire after 30 days. They will no longer provide coverage if you had an accident past that point. The one company policy I did pull out was Erie Insurance to read that. They actually went as far as 45 days, so they're longer than normal.
That's nice.
But typically, I mean, most people aren't renting a car for more than 30 days anyways.
Right. Unless you're going to travel cross country.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what about, so the next part is, you know, who will be driving the vehicle?
Right. So what your personal policy covers is the name insured on the policy, or any resident relative. It would cover that as well. If you're going to end up having a friend drive, or if you're going on vacation with a family or friend member, you may want to make sure that they also have insurance coverage, because your policy is not going to cover them. And you want to make sure that their insurance policy has the correct coverage for renting a car as well. Because again, yours might and theirs might not. So you want to make sure that that's the same. The other thing is, I know that a lot of insurance companies, not insurance companies, rent-a-car companies request you to sign a contract. And in their contract, they have guidelines as well. So they always require you to put down the name of the person who's going to be driving the vehicle. Again, if you're under the age of 25, then you will not be able to drive the rental car. I know when I go on vacation, my husband Steve, his name is only name on the policy, because he doesn't want it to have anybody else drive it, because the contract is in his name and he feels responsible. So he just wants his name only on the policy, on the contract, to be able to drive it. I think that's about it, right? Yep.
So I'll give you my professional opinion now. So if you call the office and you said, Rick, should I buy this rental car insurance? My answer is going to be yes, you should buy it. And the reason for that being is because, one, I want to make sure that you have coverage. Like, I don't want you to have any issues. You know, we like to make sure when people call us and have a claim or something like that, that they are covered. So that's my first objective for it, because there are some gaps from your personal auto policy versus the rental contract that you sign. The major one being, if you have an accident, your personal auto policy is not going to pay for loss of value for that vehicle, because rental car companies will sell those vehicles every 1 to 2 years. So they can't sell a car for as much as another car that has not been an accident.
Yep.
So they can essentially charge you $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 or more for loss of value for that vehicle. They can also charge you for loss of income. When that car is being repaired, whether it takes a week or 2 weeks, they can essentially charge you for the rental cost of that car for that period of time when it's in the shop. Those are two things that your policy is not going to cover.
Right.
You know, so that's why, for me professionally, I'm going to tell you to buy the coverage for it. Now, personally, that's a different story. Personally, I'm what you might call frugal. Is that appropriate?
For you? Yes. Good adjective. Good adjective to describe Brett.
Thrifty, maybe? I don't know. So, but I probably wouldn't buy the coverage myself. And the reason being is just that I know myself. I know how I currently drive. I know I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to have a friend who's not on the rental policy, who's not on my personal auto insurance policy, drive the car. You know, typically the places I'm going, I'm not concerned about safety issues or the car being stolen or something like that, or, you know, banged up. So basically, on my personal experience, I'm willing to take the risk for it. So, but it's a risk, you know, and it's just something that I'm probably willing to take. And I was telling Marianne earlier in our previous video,
But you didn't hear us. You didn't hear him tell me this.
That maybe if I was going to someplace like renting a car to drive around Boston or New York City or Los Angeles in an area I'm not familiar where the driving is more aggressive than I'm used to, I would probably consider buying the rental car coverage for it. So.
You don't know where you're going. And again, I mean, I use the same example of being in Orlando. There's a lot of tourists down there and people just don't know where they're going. And you want to go to a restaurant and all of a sudden there it is. And the other car doesn't know you're making a turn and crash. So it's tough.
Yeah. What would you do, Marianne?
Like I said earlier, my personal is we would not purchase it either. And like I said, my husband, Steve, he always has his own name. He's the only one that drives it. I'm more the aggressive driver. He is not. So he's much more careful. And again, like you said, it's in his name. And if the contract is in his name, he's responsible and he takes it very, very seriously. So we wouldn't get the coverage either.
So 2 insurance professionals would advise that you get the coverage.
But it's your decision.
It's your
and it
decision.
all depends.
That's right.
That's it. Thanks, you guys. Have a nice
Thanks.
Valentine's Day.
That's right. We'll see you next month for another Coverage Corner questions and answers.
And if you've got any suggestions, you guys, give us a call. We'd love to hear them. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Have a
Bye-bye.
great day.